What would change in the world if you, me, and everyone choose to feed the wolf of possibilities instead of the one of doubt, distrust, and despair? The way I see it, our point of view creates reality, not the other way around. Somewhere deep within, I think we know that. In this podcast, I am daring you to claim this remarkable superpower. Join us and be inspired by trackers, explorers, and finders of possibilities from the multiverse of hope. Welcome to the podcast, Feeding the Wolf of Possibilities, with your host, Katarina Valentin.
Welcome to Feeding the Wolf of Possibilities, and my guest today is Sylvia Puentes, a facilitator, author, and international speaker who is based in Mexico, California, and Texas, and has the whole planet as her playground. And our planet, tell us, Gaia, Earth, is what this podcast is all about. So welcome, Sylvia. So grateful you're willing to come on and explore this question. What is possible if you let the earth in and let it contribute to you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Katarina, for inviting me and really this topic as well, because it has me acknowledge, like you said, this playground that I've been enjoying, especially I'd say in the last maybe 7 years, where I have the pleasure of moving around the planet in ways I never imagined. And the gift the planet is to me in so many ways continues to surprise me and invite me to so much more.
And I would say that every place you go to, there's always a way you invite people to actually be aware of the earth, not just like I come to this new city or I come there, but there's somewhere where you're acknowledging the earth and then you're inviting other people to actually acknowledge, oh, this is the part on the earth I'm at right now, and welcome.
Yes. And I'd say, I started to travel pretty consistently, I'd say maybe about 4 years ago. And I remember flying, from one continent to the next. But I started to notice the earth from the sky. And I was like, we have such an incredible planet. There'd be moments where, it'd be desert and then it was snow and then it was ocean. And then just noticing what capacity our planet Earth has to have these microclimates and all the diversity that it has. And I thought, wow, like absolutely wow. And so the joy of traveling to different continents, and I remember hopping from Europe to Brazil, and people would always ask me, it's like, well, how do you do it? And I was like, it was such an interesting question, because I was like, how do I do what? And I started to notice this ease that I had coming into a new country, into a new city. And for me, it was almost like distance didn't matter, language or country didn't matter. It was like, I was there. And so there was this sense that every city and every country and every group of people embraced me, like, oh, we're happy you're here. And I thought, you know what? I started to notice, I'm like, I feel like I'm embraced by the whole planet everywhere I go. Whether it's a city or a country, it's like, welcome. Yeah.
And I remember Gary is the founder of Access Consciousness, and we've talked a lot about him on this show. And he started to call you a Gypsy of Consciousness a while ago. So what did that create for you? And what is that for you, being a Gypsy of Consciousness?
Well, when he first said it, I was like, well, I'm not sure what that means. And then I started to notice that, people will ask me, where's your home base? And I'm like, I pay taxes in California, probably not my best choice because it's a very expensive state. And yet it's like, and yet I have a couple closets around the world. But it was like when people started to look to place me somewhere of origin was really, really interesting. It was like, I have created the ease where it's like, moments where I'm sitting there, where would I like to go? Like I could go anywhere, just about. And things are a little more complicated nowadays. But yet it's all open. It's all a possibility. There's nothing holding me to one place or one city. And, so it's interesting because has said a couple of things to me in that one. And it's like, it begins to unfold an acknowledgement of something that I hadn't acknowledged. So Gypsy of Consciousness is like, okay, where would I go now? And what's going to create the most? And this city, that city, or, whatever it may be. And in that sense, it really is letting myself be guided by the invitation and the lightness of the choice. And I've been surprised because there's been places like, well, I don't need to go there. All right, it's super light to go. Let's go. So that willingness to go where consciousness says.
Well, and it reminds me of this, like if you had no past, what would be possible? But if there were no borders, truly, if there were no borders, if all of that actually is an invention, a structure that we put in place, but what if it isn't real? What if the earth really was embracing all of us all the time? What would be possible? What could we create?
It's so interesting because I'd say in the last 2 years, as things have changed so much, there was at the beginning, there was little sense of joy because we're now living a world. I don't know if you want to call it an issue, but we're all dealing with something together, like globally. I thought it narrowed that separation of country, of race, of religion, of socioeconomics in a way. But for me, it was like, oh, we all have something that unites us. And this part about the borders, some borders were more challenging than others as I traveled. And I thought, like, this doesn't make sense, And then I started to perceive the energy. I remember being in Italy out at the beautiful Casa what is it?
Casa Albergone.
Yes.
Casa Albergone, yeah.
And seeing these beautiful mountains and I'm like, oh, this actually looks very similar to Northern California. And being in Northern California, north of San Francisco, you got the wine country and these rolling green hills. But I'm all energetically, there's something different. And I remember, asking Gary about that. I go, in Italy, in those mountains that I would see outside the castle, I'm like, it's like there's no end. Like the space and the energy just kept going. And in Northern California, I'm all, there seems to be this stop, this like halt. And I'm all, oh my goodness, is that what people do when they put this halt to the borders of their property and their land? But, and I thought, wow, like how much do we stop the flow of energy around the globe, but what we have identified as borders or my property, your property, this is my land and your land. And I thought, wow, that is so interesting, where truly, like, what else is possible when we embrace the whole planet as one?
And it is interesting now in these times where this whole pandemic that we're in or nearly out of, hopefully, in one way has increased the sense of borders, and in another way has actually increased the awareness that borders are completely irrelevant for what's actually going on and for what is possible. So that I am so grateful for, kind of like that awakening of the globality of this planet.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, what was your connection with the earth and the planet when you were a kid?
I was probably about maybe 4 or 5 years old, and finding a quiet place to myself was very rare. And, growing up in a family of 5 girls, and family was always, someone was living with us. There was always people around. But I found myself in the backyard, and I remember looking up to the sky and going, oh yeah, like I'm going to grow to be that big. And the only reference point I had to big was, the men on stilts at the circus. But I had this sense of like receiving the sky and what I can now maybe put words to of possibilities and the adventure of living. Like I always had this sense of more was possible from a very, very young age. And so I started to play with this, and I'm noticing that every time I acknowledge the earth, there is this sense of expansion and joy in my being. We often talk about gratitude and the power of gratitude. I go, but what else actually gets created as you're willing to adore and enjoy and savor the beauty, the colors, the breeze, the rain, all of it that actually contributes to our being and our body and our living. So for me, inviting the earth in has been that. It's been this playmate. So there's no sense of being alone everywhere I travel. I always feel like I'm home. And that's been a beautiful experience that I would love more people to explore that and see what shows up for them.
I was going to say exactly that. It's beautiful. And it is truly this where contribution is that simultaneity of gifting and receiving. And by you contributing to the earth, you're also opening up to receive from the earth, like letting the earth in. And I know you've been working on this project that we have in Costa Rica, the El Lugar Eco Resort. So would you be willing to talk about what that has changed for you and how that kind of like maybe increased or altered the way you be with the earth?
Yeah, so this project El Lugar in Costa Rica, so amazing. I've gotten to see it in the early stages, and it's been developing. And I remember I was horse riding, and there's a moment we passed this creek, and there's this open space in these big trees. If people have seen the movie Avatar, there is a moment of that where like, wow, like the vastness, but that open space, that nurturance and the silence. And again, this simultaneity of gifting and receiving in that space, I thought, wait, this is different. This ongoing development of, I would say, almost like this muscle of awareness of the energy of spaces and land. I'm like, wait, this is different. I remember riding with a horse pretty fast, and yet this joy in my being going, there was no fear, no worry. It's like, I gotcha. I got you. So this incredible land, and this is part of that sense we were talking about at the beginning, where there's no separation. And what if all of it desires to contribute to us? So recently, I was not feeling well, and I was in bed for a couple of days, and someone's all, have you asked to receive from El Lugar? And I thought, oh my gosh. Again, it's like this sweet friend going, hey, I got tons of energy and more magic to contribute to you and your body. And it was such a peaceful receiving of the land, so that's one of the many gifts that it's been. And as I meet people who have invested or gone there is this sense that like it embraces and contributes to whatever it is that you're creating and choosing in your life in a way that's unexplainable. I invite the entire world to go see it, because it's also being developed in a way where it has the earth in everything it's building, in the location and how things are building. It's always in that communion of, okay, will this actually work for this land? Will it actually work for the earth? Is it going to create greater and more? And so the desire is that more people come to explore and investigate what we've done on that property and the way we construct, to know that we can live and enjoy the planet, with a roof over our head, electricity and all that, and yet still do it in communion with the earth.
And I remember when you were talking about when you were being sick and asked for contributions. So when my mom passed away, I was talking to my dad after what helped him the most. And he said the one thing that really helped him was to go for long walks in the forest. And he said that the forest contributed more than any conversation, than any other way of grieving really did, because the forest provided this space to be where everything was bigger and more inclusive, and it healed him in a way that, all the therapeutical things that we think would heal didn't. So I'm also wondering how much of that is actually available today, that is starting to open up for people all over the world. How much are people actually starting to tap into the earth, to have that awe-inspiring moments with the earth?
And it is that space, like, imagine having, I don't know, a best friend that is there to listen, receive you, not judge you. It is, that is such a nurturing energy where like, you're not wrong. There's nothing to fix. Walk with me, sit with me. It's like, there's that beautiful book, The Giving Tree. I don't know if you've read it, but it's a beautiful short story with a lot of pictures. But that tree just gave and gave and had no point of view. You need my branches, my apples, whatever you need, even when it was a stump. And I think, we have been living on this planet kind of like that story of this giving tree, this giving earth. And it's like, I wonder what we can change by simply acknowledging it from the breeze to the sunlight to the food we eat. The other day I had this carrot. I had been in bed for 3 days and I ate this carrot shortly after. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this what food is supposed to be like? Haven't had any food for 3 days to actually feel the nourishment, the freshness, the earth in it, the living organism of it. I thought, wow. I'm all like, we're so busy sometimes and stuffing our face with food without actually acknowledging or feeling or sensing it. But, the gift of being in bed in 3 days, it's like even liquid, I could feel it run through my body. It's like, oh, I'm so grateful for my body for actually allowing myself to have this space and in perceiving these subtle, energies of the contribution of food, even in that. So, earth really lives with us in so many ways. I mean, that carrot, the water we drink, all of it, it's like, wow, it's literally with us at every single moment. So whether people can go out in nature or just simply enjoy the food and just receive how far it's come to get to your table.
The magic of that is that while we may think that we have to look for ways to contribute and give to the earth, by that very act of receiving from the earth, we are actually gifting to the earth. It's like the earth is longing to create that channel of gifting and receiving and having that connection, molecular, connection with us. So I love that description of what would it be if we truly were so present with just a breeze on our face or the wind in our hair or the sun on our skin or the carrot that we haven't been able to eat for 3 days. What does that create? And what does it create in the honoring of the earth and the gratitude and the all of those things where that actually creates a connection that goes beyond the taking, and that whole more business related thing that we tend to do with things.
And I'd say the playing of it, today I was swimming with dolphins and I never imagined, but there was a moment I'm looking down in the water and I can see them coming around and there was this giddiness in my being of just like, oh my gosh, this is like so fun and magical. And I thought, oh, that energy contributes too. Like they stayed around for an hour as we played and twirled and went under and I'm all like, wow, that energy. So when you're out in the world and you're acknowledging and receiving the joy, the warmth, the sun, all of that, like I know there's an energy that vibrates through the planet as we be that. And, I wonder what we could change and create different with land and weather if we started to have more of that energy of joy and play and that gratitude and that receiving.
And when you read about awe, like what creates awe, there's a few things like they can be spiritual or they can be a person that creates something amazing like art or something. But one of the most common ways of creating awe in us is nature, moments in nature, moments with the earth and awe is really when everything kind of stops and everything gets bigger and time doesn't matter anymore because what you're experiencing, it goes beyond, it goes into this awe, the sense of awe. And one of the things that I've noticed when I have moments of awe, which I have quite often actually, especially with the earth, is that all the needs I think I have goes away. They just disappear because they're not real. And in that moment of awe, especially with nature and with the earth, it's like they dissolve instantly. And that's something that I'm looking at, like, what would it be like if we actually acknowledge that as one of the most healing experiences people could have around the world?
Wow. Yeah. More of that. Yeah. I think of sunsets that I've seen or a space of silence, because that's also rare. And it's like there's almost no thought, nothing to do or go, and it's just that moment, that space of almost what we call nothingness, but yet it's so full, and I get that less and less spaces are available for that silence. There's an exercise that Gary Douglas invited years ago, and people can find it also on YouTube, and it's an invitation to walk.
The earth walk or meditation walk. Yeah.
Yes. And it's like, how many kilometers is it? Do you remember? But it's a good distance in 1 hour. And I've done it a couple times. And the first time I had a really challenging time to walk in silence by myself away from so many things. I don't know, was it how many kilometers?
No, it's no kilometers. It's actually really short. It's like 100 or 200 meters. So it's a very short distance that you have to walk in a very long time. So you have to walk so incredibly slow that you are aware of everything around you. Instead of that hasty way that we go through life, it kind of forces you to be acutely aware of you, of the earth, and of everything around you.
Yes, that. And so I was really, really, really uncomfortable walking that slow by myself as my mind raced, my thoughts were going. And I think I cut it short. I don't think at the first time I didn't even finish. It was like, oh, wow, that was almost torture because I was I hadn't really allowed myself the space to be with the earth, to receive in that pace. And I remember the last time, it went by so quickly this time, but there was so much that I noticed. So much of the sounds, of the little things, of the spider webs and all the different senses of what I could feel physically and see it. And I thought, wow, something's changed, not right or wrong, but this willingness to just give yourself that gift. So if people are interested, I would invite you to explore it. If you can find a quiet space to go do that away from anyone for that 1 hour. So.
Well, we'll add the link under this podcast and in the description. And I was going to ask you if you would like to give them a suggestion or a tool to explore the earth. And I think we just did. I think the earth work or the earth meditation walk. And there's a brilliant video that will explain for you how far you actually have to walk. Yes. Since Sylvia and I don't exactly remember. Yeah.
You don't have to walk to India from the US. Yes, I don't think it's that long.
And it is a truly beautiful practice that you may have to do a few times to actually experience the different sense of being that comes with it when you're able to just take a breath and slow down and be with the earth for that long of a short walk.
It's amazing just if I can add that piece of what it changes everything after that. Because there's moments where engaging with each other, we're actually not receiving or listening. And, the earth will, in this exercise, may gift you way more than you can imagine. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's beautiful. So if people would like to hang out more with you about the earth and about other things that you facilitate, how do they find you and where do they find you?
Well, it's interesting. I just started a Facebook group called Possibilities Everywhere. And there's this new series of possibilities await you. Because for me, that is part of the gift of the earth and so much more, that there is possibilities of just everything in different areas of your lives waiting for you. So that's a group that we have on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram as Sylvia Puentes. You can find me on YouTube, SoundCloud, different platforms in Spanish and in English. Yeah, so I'm in a couple of different places and just enjoying to share with people possibilities that I never imagined were possible, that I hope it sparks something in someone going, all right, I'm willing to ask for that. I'm willing to choose that. Because I never imagined living the life I'm living now. And I keep asking, what else? What else is available that's only an ask or a choice away? And, for those people that, are following your podcast, I'm sure have heard of Access Consciousness. But the tools there truly, truly invite you to have more of you, which the gift of you having more of you and enjoying more of you on this planet contributes to so much more than we can see. So thank you for this beautiful podcast and everyone listening.
Thank you. And what you just mentioned, it contributes to everyone and everything, and it contributes to the planet. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for coming on. And I am looking forward to hear more about your playing with the dolphins today. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, Feeding the Wolf of Possibilities. I hope you have more space in your world now. If you would like to listen to earlier episodes, share with other people, or subscribe, please go to Spotify, iTunes, or visit katarinavalentin.com/wolf.